Alright guys, so it's been a while since Asphalt Legends Unite has been announced and we got a couple of trailers explaining a bit more the concept and that stuff, but I realized that there were many people asking first if Asphalt Legends Unite was a new game, which I already answered on a separate video, and second, why they were releasing Asphalt Legends Unite instead of a new Asphalt game, as it could have been a theoretical Asphalt 10. So today I will give you a few reasons that I really think explain quite accurately why don't we get a new Asphalt game, or if you prefer it, why are we getting Asphalt Legends Unite instead of a new Asphalt game. So let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, in case you didn't check my previous videos, either because you are a new subscriber or just because you have been busy, Asphalt Legends Unite is not a new Asphalt game. You could call it a game expansion of Asphalt 9 Legends, or as I like to call it, a massive update which will change a ton of things within Asphalt 9 Legends, but that will allow those who were playing before to keep their progression within the game as well. So yeah, in a nutshell, you could call Asphalt Legends Unite a massive Asphalt 9 Legends update, and you will be quite right. We already talked about the new graphics it will have, as well as the new Singapore track, a new game mode, and then of course the classic, which is a new user interface, crossplay, more platforms, and physical versions for PS4, PS5 and Nintendo Switch, and some other changes which I don't remember too much, so I guess they weren't as important right now. But why, you may be wondering? Why didn't Gameloft release a new game with all the changes instead of making a huge update on a game they launched 5 years ago? Well, on my previous video I explained a bit why the answer to your question lies within the question itself. In an industry as the mobile video games in particular, or the video games in general, since Asphalt Unite will be available on different platforms, a game that resists through 5 years is something worthy of recognition, because many games end up completely forgotten, many others get cancelled due to the lack of profit or funds or something like that, and many more factors that makes a game that managed to reach the 5 years mark of age something important, even special, considering how the industry moves nowadays. Gameloft as a company isn't as massive as other mobile games companies like, for example, Supercell or Tencent, but still created some quite famous games in the past, being Asphalt 9 Legends the best one in terms of graphics quality right now. I don't think there is a game with a similar graphic quality on mobile devices, and that may be about to change, but I will get into that later. The thing is that sure, Asphalt 9 isn't a cheap game or an extremely free-to-play friendly game, but it certainly is the best game you can install with such a good graphic quality on your phone, which is already quite nice. As much as I love Asphalt 8, I have to be honest here, so I understand why Asphalt 9 keeps so much attention from Gameloft's side, because it's easily their most famous game right now. It's basically a formula that works, even though on the in-game purchases aspect isn't super good though. From Gameloft's perspective, it doesn't make sense for them to spend millions to develop a game that couldn't get way better graphics than Asphalt 9 already has, and that will likely be quite similar, so obviously it will always be easier and cheaper to develop an update, even if it's massive, to a product like Asphalt 9 Legends that it has worked in the past, and that with better graphics and other changes could easily work way better than a new game that could end, as a flop, as some titles ended in the past. Because without even leaving Gameloft's catalog, it's easier to name a few projects that we can certainly say that fail. Like for example Gangstar New Orleans, Gangstar New York, and I would like to mention a potential flop as it could be Disney Speedstorm. Many companies have suffered things like this, it's something that could happen in the industry, but obviously it's easy to understand why Gameloft doesn't want the Asphalt Saga to end with, a flop. That's why Asphalt Legends Unite, once it gets released, will likely become the ultimate Asphalt game, putting an end, theoretically, to one of Gameloft's most legendary sagas, and keeping the development of it for many years to come. Another one of the reasons is related to the way Asphalt 9 Legends is and their players' relation with the game. Because if you have been playing Asphalt 8 for as much as I did, a week within Asphalt 9 is enough to realize how expensive it is when compared to Asphalt 8. Starting from the points where in both games you can actually get many cars with patience and completely for free, Asphalt 9 Legends has way higher prices in general. The best car of the game could take easily $1,000 for a newcomer just to be unlocked, while on Asphalt 8 you could easily get the best car of the entire game by $150, which isn't super cheap, but it's enough to display the difference between both games. And this is because Gameloft knows how good Asphalt 9 Legends is as a product, not only because of graphics but also because of gameplay, and obviously they take advantage on that. But that of course creates a dilemma, because considering how much some players have spent through the years on Asphalt 9 Legends, how would these players react if a new game appeared and they had to start from scratch after all what they have spent on the game, which has been a ton more than those who spent money on Asphalt 8 when they started Asphalt 9. For a normal company that wouldn't be a dilemma, they wouldn't even care, but I think that following that logic, from Gameloft's perspective, giving a game expansion will be way more beneficial in the long term, since those who spend on the game will be able to keep enjoying what they paid for, while the game as a product is way more attractive thanks to the new features Asphalt Legends Unite will introduce. However, this way of thinking pissed off many people who were waiting for a new Asphalt game to have a chance to start from zero, and thus they wouldn't have to worry for either not spending money or time and effort in Asphalt 9 through all this year waiting for a new game. Despite I get the point of those people, personally I have zero regrets for all the time and money I have put into this game, since now I will get to experience the game in a completely different way once that Asphalt Legends Unite arrives. However, there is something you should be considering when thinking about why Gameloft decided to expand their game rather than, bringing a completely new title to the saga, and how I will be talking about competition within the racing genre on mobile devices more particularly. However, there is something else you should be considering when thinking about why Gameloft decided to expand their game rather than, bringing a completely new one, and now I will be talking about competition within the racing genre on mobile devices more particularly. Racing Master, a game I have mentioned several times in the past, is finally set to be released during this year after being a couple of years under beta testing. Racing Master has been released on China and Taiwan first, and the results have been absolutely insane for a racing game, earning massive amounts of money thanks to a different in-game purchases scheme, and of course due to incredibly realistic graphics and a wide variety of cars. It's quite obvious to think that the fact that Asphalt Legends Unite is being released on July 2024 wasn't a casual choice. Gameloft wants to keep their part of the players interested on racing games, and thus they have put all the meat on the grill, as we could see on their trailers. They will be using something that works and that they will improve in order to make it even more attractive, and thus be able to look eye to eye to the new competition. Developing a game could have meant that it wouldn't be ready at the right time, or as I mentioned, could end up as a flop, basically a failure, something considered way too risky within a niche as it is the racing genre on mobile devices. The last reason is about game updates. Guys, I have mentioned several times in the past how it's even possible the fact that the Chinese version of Asphalt 9 Legends, which is managed by Tencent, gets more cosmetics and features than the global version if, the Chinese version has way less players. Instead of releasing a ton of new content within 2 updates, the Asphalt 9 developers are carefully dosing the content so they have way more things to add for a way longer period of time, and thus keep the players engaged for longer. This had to slightly change with Asphalt Legends Unite, since given the fact that the competition will of course play their cards, they will have to bring new features more often in order to keep the players interested, because otherwise players will just move to other games, which is the worst scenario possible. Also, it's important to consider that maybe all these new features they could introduce aren't enough to create a different game from Asphalt 9 Legends, and that's why it makes way more sense to introduce them in the future on Asphalt Legends Unite. So yeah, all these reasons basically explain why at this exact moment it's safe to say that Gameloft is way more committed to develop and expand Asphalt 9 rather than starting to develop a game from scratch. Of course, there will be always some guys in the comment section saying that Asphalt Legends Unite is a new game or something like that, while the truth is that despite Asphalt Legends Unite will feel like a new game, at the end I will be able to use the exact same cars I unlock, sometimes with my money, sometimes with my effort and time on Asphalt 9 Legends. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure to drop your like and subscribe if you aren't, in order to not to miss anything about Asphalt 9 or Asphalt Legends Unite, and I will see you really soon as usual with much more content. Goodbye, guys.